Peace, good people. Wanted to come to you today to just talk a bit about sidereal astrology. As a person who's been studying tropical astrology for the past several decades and hitting a wall at a certain point around what I felt I was looking for from a system of support and clarity, I decided when I turned 40 that I was going to experiment with my sidereal identity for 30 days and see what came up. During this year, I shifted from being a tropical Western Pisces into a sidereal Eastern Aquarius sun. And most of my placements shifted. What did not shift is a Venus in Pisces. And I'll talk to you more about that in a moment. But the idea here is I was going to try on this identity for 30 days and just see what it felt like, which means my rising sign would change, my moon sign would change. A lot of my signs that most people would identify as my big three would change. But what also changed is my reference point to why it is that I was even studying astrology to begin with. The most beautiful part of this journey was that I actually started to see the things that I knew about myself from my inner world validated through this particular astrology system. I wasn't at all worried about the technical aspects about whether, this was the right calculation or, whether this was something I was going to do forever. I tried it on, and as soon as I was done in 30 days, I tried to take it off. The problem was it stuck. That was the biggest challenge I had. It stuck. I wasn't able to disengage this astrological system the way that I intended. I thought me trying it on was just me seeing what would it mean to be somebody else for a month. What would it mean to look at myself through a different lens for a month? And what I discovered is that that lens that I tried on was actually the lens I was looking for. So I don't mean this in a way to say that who I was not good enough, or I was looking for something to try and justify who I felt I was. What I'm saying is I was at a place where who I was becoming, or who it is that I was growing into, evolving into, didn't already have a system, didn't already have a language that I was aware of. And I found it during this 30 days. So, one of the things that I really want to discuss that I think is so important to acknowledge is that there's nothing wrong with tropical or Western astrology for anyone who wants to practice this and for the reasons that anyone would want to practice it. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that system. What I personally discovered is that there was another system that was better for me. Now, I am also a person as a yogini that spends a lot of time looking into herself, doing self-study, which is what we call it in the yogic practice. And so, me studying who I am and the ways in which I show up and the things that I am and desire to be was something that was a preoccupation for me before I made the switch. And so, I was looking for a pairing, a complement to this new understanding of identity and evolution of self. And when I tried on sidereal astrology for 30 days, what I didn't understand is that all the things that I felt inside, all the things I noticed about myself that other people could not accurately identify about me were inside of this particular new system of practice that was familiar but new in perspective. I then began to self-study, and then I continued my self-study until I found proper teachers. And then after I found proper teachers, it was texts and it was more self-study. And then it became people asking me if I could help and assist them with things they were looking for. It became me peering into other people's lives and noticing like, oh my gosh, this person really needs this tool because they are at that place I was where they hit that wall thinking, this is who I am and there's nothing else for me. I just am destined to repeat these same cycles and patterns, as long as we're in this jam because I don't I don't have anything else to support. This is as far as Western astrology will take me. But what about the spiritual side? We know that yoga is an Eastern practice that's practiced in the West. We know there has been a yogic boom, and we know that Ayurveda and some of the other systems that are sister systems to yoga are part of what we heavily practice in the West, even if we don't call it by name, and even if we don't know its origin. We know that these are things that people practice without consideration of any of that. But then for a person who practices it and knows the origins and the consideration, it didn't make any sense for me to follow Western astrology. Western astrology allows the seasons to dictate what astrological constellation we're in, what sign we're in. And it doesn't match what's actually happening in the sky. It only tells us a part of the story. And a part of the story that it shares with us is every year we repeat the same cycle the same way. It doesn't change, it doesn't shift the way you would hope it would. It's the same and it's fixed. So something being fixed, even though I was a mutable sign in a fixed system, didn't make any sense to me as a person who watches cycles, watches patterns, watches the sky. It was not making sense to me. And I knew about sidereal astrology, but I wasn't ready to adapt it as my main system or adopt it as my main system because I knew there wasn't this interface of people I could talk with about it. Or I knew when people were doing kind of the pop astrology and they were saying, oh, we're having a full moon in Aries, and it wasn't really a full moon in Aries, that I would somehow feel even more isolated and left out when my idea that I was holding was completely different and there just weren't enough people talking about it. The problem with that is that I held myself back. I held my own growth and development back. And that's not very Aquarian. I held my own growth and development back because I told myself that there will come a time when more people will join on, but I don't want to be at the brunt of that time. It is a heavy thing. It's a heavy lift to get people to move to a new system when this is what they've been doing their whole lives. And I know this because of how challenging it might have been to get people to try to do yoga, how challenging it is to get people to meditate, to practice pranayama, to do, to be an artist, to not work a 9 to 5, to homeschool, to all these things that I've been a part of. It was just very, very hard to get people to understand it. And even though these are things that I adopted quite quickly based on when I felt ready for it, it still would have me create a world of difference between myself and other people. And I just didn't want that at that time. And then I grew up. And when I grew up, I said to myself, it's okay if other people don't come with me on this journey. As long as the journey is fulfilling, satisfying, and resonant to me, I belong in proper alignment with who I actually am and how I actually move and the systems that support that movement. As quick and changing as it is in my life, I need a system that's going to back me up and help me remedy the things that challenge me to be who I am and help advance and expand the things in my own growth that are exactly where I'm headed and who I belong in being with. So it was my relationship to everything that I was really seeking. And it was my relationship to nature, to people I'm in relationships with, work that I do, contributions that I provide, ways in which I am with other people that I couldn't explain. Sure, I knew a lot about Western astrology in the sense that those things were present in that chart, but it did not fully resonate when I started asking myself, well, what kind of practices should I be doing then? What are the things that are so natural to me, not in a vague way, but in a very specific, minutia kind of way. And it would be those same, inclinations and curiosities that I had with Western that would lead me to Eastern, but it was primarily my yoga practice that led me to Eastern because my yoga practice said, you are already embodied in these teachings. Now let's get scientific. Let's get mathematical, actually. Let's look at the cosmos as a larger practice than you just following the moon every month. That was a hint. As a larger practice as you engaging people with ritual and bringing people into rooms and sacred spaces to do ritual together. That was another hint. As a larger practice than you just feeling like, you know what, this is who I am. This is who I am. I am exclusively soul healing. I have practices and things that are important to me that I need to do. And it just doesn't make any sense to continue to do things in a way that doesn't really support that. And so I don't have to go to the East to explain, what it is that I'm feeling. I can utilize tools that came from the East that complement the things that I've already adopted. All right. So this was kind of my line of thinking as to why it stuck. And it quietly stuck. I didn't make a big announcement about it. It quietly stuck because it took me a while to see myself as this person. It took a while for me to accept that that is exactly what I've been looking at. And it's completely a shift from what I've always been told, which felt like a distraction at this point. So I think about this in terms of, from the time that you're born to the time that you're 40, you are going through a developmental process. I think the 30s, people think at the 30s, okay, you're home free and you're no longer developing. You're developing your entire life. The problem is that it's not until you really get to your 40s that you stop caring about what other people think. You stop listening to what other people have to say to a certain degree and you start following your own compass. So this was an optimal and perfect time for me to switch from the training wheel system that got me where I needed to go and had me at the wall where I was seeking a new teacher. And I said, I'm ready to learn and be in my wisdom and advance forward because life is not over. It's actually just beginning. So I need a new system that's going to carry me forward and not have me do the things and embrace the childish ways that got me to this level of wisdom to begin with. So I started utilizing sidereal astrology and particularly Jyotish, and I found that the same terminology, the same concepts that were very present in my yoga practice were now expanded in this new, star math that I was studying on this heightened level. So what I will say to you, and the reason why I'm bringing this up to you is that you may be in this place as well yourself. You may be in a place where you realize that, there's only so much of this that makes sense. And so I created a program. It's called To the East, and it starts here on January 11th, 2026. It's called To the East, and To the East is about switching over to sidereal, allowing your tropical map that you have been holding and holding dear to you to help you leverage over to a new system that's going to take you further, but without abandoning the base of what it is that you have started. So, yes, sidereal is about, I'm going to say, about a mutable sky, a sky that moves, a sky that changes, a sky that is not fixed just because we're in a new season and it's always the same year after year after year. The earth is not the same year after year after year. We change our tilts, we change our position, our angles, all those things have to be considered if you're looking at an astrological system. And so sidereal gives us the possibility of that tilt, of that wobble, meaning something different as it relates to how we are impacted by those changes and by that progression. And so this is how I have begun to understand the power, the magic, and the beauty of sidereal astrology, and why I have begun teaching it to other people, and why I'm now offering an invitation for you to join me online for this 8-week course that is going to start to open your eyes and help you shift idea, identity, and concept archetypally as we start to move through this new system and your connection to this new system. All we're looking for is that relationship between things, relationship with nature, of course, the sky, the cosmos, of course, this historical connection, this cultural connection, ancestral, as well as this personal connection that hopefully you are developing. It always starts with a personal practice and then moves into a community or group practice. So first, you have to ask yourself, who am I and what is it that I am seeking for? And this is such a beautiful system because it can also be paired with your other systems. If you are in therapy, you can pair this with your therapy. You can pair this with your yoga practice. You can pair this with your creative practices, your healing practices. It's so beautiful and so rich. If you're an entrepreneur, you're a person who desires to contribute heavily and aspires to being a figurehead in society to lead people to places, you can also pair it with that. There's really nothing you can't pair it with other than a falsehood, right? Or an inaccurate calculation. And so this is the reason why we are going into this course. So in this 8 weeks, we are going to not only stare at the sky, pay close attention to changes and shifts. It's a very change-oriented process. We're going to try it on as I did and see what it means to be this new sidereal identity. But we're also going to talk with each other. We're going to have some case studies. We're going to look at our modern and historical muses through this system. But we also are going to take the time to reflect and do that actual self-study on a regular daily basis before we come together on a weekly basis to kind of discuss what we found. And compiling our experiences together is going to give this such a richer context than being somewhere isolated alone and just kind of thumbing through these different versions and interpretations that are spread across not only the internet but across people's pages and academies, right? So we're going to integrate and we're also going to yoke all of these together and make sure that they speak to the life that we've already built and look into the life that that life is actually helping us to build and leverage. So I want you to just invite yourself to stacypatrice.com/, to the east. And to the east is this activation that is so important right now, so prevalent right now. And I think it's the most important because we don't need anything else telling us who we are and who we are not. We don't need any more erasure. We don't need any more recontexting of the raw material and giving us a falsehood. We don't need any more of this. What we actually need right now, and I know you can agree with me on this, is to just get authentic and transparent and get to it. We don't need to wait. We don't need to wait for a better time to do this. This is the time. This is the time that we come across this information, and this is the time to utilize this information. And I am so honored to host this journey and help usher you into a more resonant state of being. And if you're a person who is like, I don't know anything about astrology. There's no prerequisite for this course, but this course becomes a prerequisite for other courses that I will be offering to deepen knowledge, to expand, to go out in the world with this identity and this knowledge. And so I definitely don't want to leave you behind in this expansion that is happening in the upcoming year. So we are kicking off the year with this very foundational base program. And I almost at times don't like to call it a course because it's kind of like a living course. It's like us being who we are, very informal in that respect, very much explorers, looking deeper into the things that are around us and before us, into our insights. If you are a person who is a leader, a teacher, if you feel that you are different in any way, and I mean that with the utmost respect and honor, if you are different in any way, if you have traveled a different kind of life, if you have avoided absorbing yourself into the way that everybody does everything, if you've been an outlier, if you in some way have um, gifts and abilities and, you know, a sense of clarity around things that are confusing for most people, you're going to love this journey. If you are someone that's like, you know what, I want to leave this old life behind, it's crumbling anyway. And I might not be 40, or I might, and I want to just move forward. This is also going to be really amazing for you. And if you've never studied astrology before and you're really just vaguely familiar and you're like, I need somebody to walk me through it so I can look at what is actually happening, this is going to be a great place to start. And the reason that it is that is because I won't make any assumptions about how deeply entrenched in astrology you are. I will talk to you and you will talk back to me and we will talk with each other about where you are. And the curriculum is designed to be like that dynamic kind of flow. It's not a fixed curriculum that's like fit into this box for 8 weeks and this is the way it is. And as long as you can do this, then you'll be good. It's more like, what is it? I have this curriculum, but it's like, what is it that I can help and assist with so that it becomes clarified. And I love pontificating and explaining things and taking you on a journey so that you can see things illustrated before your eyes that you've never seen before. I love that interconnection. It is the way in which my life works, and it is the way in which I translate ideas that I am very confident about. So join me, Stacy Patrice, to the East, a sidereal astrology self-study. I hope to see you there. I think these 8 weeks are going to be absolutely beautiful for you and lead us right into a new season as we are closing out. We will be moving right towards the equinox, but actually at the very end of the kind of cycle that we are accustomed to before we transfer into a new season. But in this course, we will be in the middle of that transfer. We will not yet be in the final stage of that season. And I want that final stage of the season to not be in the course so that you can take that time to breathe in and say, yeah, this is what this all means, and move forward from there. So won't you join me? If you have any more questions for me, leave a comment below. Let me know if you already are into sidereal astrology, if you are into tropical astrology, if you are excited about learning it, if you have any questions about learning it, and also if you have any inhibitions about learning it. Because This is too advanced for me to all share here on this platform. I am very excited about going through each thing with you in real time. So this is not like a pre-recorded type of engagement where you just hit play, you watch a video like you would on any other platform, and then you try and make sense of it. This is a living curriculum. And this is my favorite kind of curriculum to do. So I hope to see you inside and go ahead and register today. I have two different options for you at this time. There is a pay all at once option as well as a pay plan option. And those two options are available to you today. And so pick one. We start on January 11th. Do not hesitate. I look forward to seeing you then. Peace.